Hi and welcome to everybody who joined us here in the newsroom, but also online. For those I didn't meet earlier, I am Romana Mongo. I am EU Tech Policy Journalist here at Euronews. I am happy to introduce you to this event, Unlocking Europe's Potential. I hope you enjoy your lunch, but also your discussion with your peers, because now it's time to dive right into the topic that interests us today, competition and technological trends. And what's better to understand these developments than to talk with the organization that is the front line of European innovation, the European Patent Office, also known as EPO for France. To kickstart this conversation, EPO President Antonio Campinos was supposed to join us today. Unfortunately, due to medical reason, he will not be able to make it. But fortunately for us, Luis Berenguer, EPO spokesperson, prepared for us an opening speech. I will follow the speech by sparkling policy debate with four special and knowledgeable guests representing the European Commission, the European Parliament, businesses, and the European Patent Office. But first, please give a warm welcome to Luis, EPO spokesperson.
Thank you very much, Roman, and thanks a lot to Euronews to put in place this very interesting event. And especially thank you very much to the Euronews team for putting also in place the Spotify music list, which is actually something that I recommend. There is a QR code going around. Do not hesitate in downloading it. The first song is She Blinded Me with Science. So basically, this is what we do at the EPO. We talk about technologies and we talk about science. The European Patent Office is an international organization. I insist on that. It's not EU organization. It's an international organization that was created with the European Patent Convention back in 1973. So we have been working for more than 70 years on registering high-quality patents to protect innovation and scientific developments. I mean, you need to understand that the important part is not the patent itself. The important part is the research, the innovation, the whole process that it takes place ahead and a long time with lots of efforts by researchers, by investors, by companies. At the end, the patent comes and gives protection to all those efforts. As I said, we were created in 1973, and we have been dealing with European patents since 1976. We are registering around 200,000 European patents per year. I will refer to that later. And since June 2023, we are also registering the unitary patent, an EU right, an EU IP right. So the fact that we are not EU does not prevent us to, in an example of a fruitful collaboration with the European Commission, that we manage EU IP right, which is the European patent. By the way, last March 4th, we received the unitary patent application number 15,000, which is well above the expectation. So we're actually, a unitary patent is a healthy new kid on the block, and we're very happy to witness that. As I said, we register nearly 200,000 patents per year, and we try to register and to protect the inventors and researchers and companies' cutting-edge inventions. And we do that with a patent protection that is extended to 45 states, 45 territories, 45 jurisdictions. So it's very good value for money for people that want to protect their investment in research and development. So, as I said, we have been guarding Europe's innovation for more than 15 years through high-quality patents. Now, we're very happy that we have Euronews organizing this event, because especially after the Draghi report, I think it's very clear for all of us, we understand that we have understood the critical role of technology in enhancing Europe's global competitiveness. Patent data is key to understanding how industries grow, which technologies are thriving, and where the next big investment opportunities lie. And the European Patent Office actually holds the largest collection of patent data. So, if you allow me, Europe has a plan, and the EPO has the intelligence, has the knowledge, and of course we're ready to share it. In fact, this is what we're doing right now. We do this yearly, through the publication of the patent index that has been launched today. You may have seen it in some media outlets. And we actually share a summary of the 200,000 applications that we have received, and we group them by country, region, technologies, even companies. We have ranks, and we have adapted information country-related, region-related, even city-related, in case you're interested. In fact, you can consult that. You can look at it in our website, epo.org. We have the statistics and trend center. And of course, we also have a hub, the EPO data hub, which is really highly recommended if you're interested on this data. But what can be the patent index used for? Of course, it's a valuable resource to track patent data. This data will help us understand what is happening in the world of inventions and provides insights on the technological advancements that are shaping our future. For governments, for policymakers, for EU institutions, this is why we are happy to be here in Brussels, this tool is very valuable to shape innovation policies and to fund research in areas where demand is high. So think of the patent index not as a established or photograph, but rather as a roadmap showing where industries are headed. And we'll finalize this short introduction with just 2 examples of the data that we have published today, that we have made available today. For example, if we talk about AI, everyone talks about AI. Okay, so this is the first question that we need to address. Under computer technology is the first technological sector in terms of applications that we have received in 2024. It has grown 3%, which is a very good average in terms of growing, and 40% of those applications are AI-related, AI-based inventions. If we look at it from a regional point of view, we need to agree that Europe has been a stable contributor to that area, with a share of roughly 30% over the past 10 years. Nevertheless, it's also worth noticing that China's share has doubled in the same period. So clearly, that gives us an idea of where we are in that term. A second example, and I will finish my presentation with this. We look at traditional mechanical sectors like combustion engines. And of course, we're talking about cars, aerospace, and machinery. This area has significantly declined over the years for obvious reason. It's not what the market wants. So researchers, companies are focusing on other topics. For example, battery-powered cars, battery-powered automotive sector. This is up by 24% since last year. So this is showing again where the interest of the researchers and the interest of the markets are. So thank you very much for coming. Again, thank you very much to Euronews for putting this event in place. And I'm sure that we will all enjoy the panel that is coming up to discuss those trends and competitiveness in Europe. Again, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Luis. It was an insightful speech into EPO's work and to understanding a bit more the importance of patent for Europe economies and how it boosts for research, innovation, and develop high-level technology. Now, yeah, maybe you can take up this table, so I will be able to invite our guest on stage to dive deeper into this topic. So I first would like to welcome Gilles Requena, EPO's Chief Patent Research and Policy Officer. You can sit down here. Thierry Suard, Chair of MEDEF Europe Patent Working Group and Chair also of the IP Committees for the MEDEF French industry, over there. Thank you very much. Adrienne Vasquez-Lazara, Member of the European Parliament from the EPP Group. Thank you. And Ioannis Sagas from the European Commission is the Deputy Head of Unit for Valorization Policy and Intellectual Property Rights at the DG responsible for research. So thank you very much all for being with me today. Before we start, I would like to ask our audience to keep any question that they may have for the end of this panel. We will take 10 to 15 minutes to answer those, and those goes also for the people following us online. I will first turn to you, Gilles. I would like to discuss a bit more about the finding of the patent index. Maybe what can you tell us about the evolution of technological trends? For example, we can see that computer technology are on the rise and still first actually, while there is less and less interest in medical field. I could see, for example, for medical device, but also pharmaceutical industry. So how come? Maybe you can tell us more about that, please.
Thank you, Roman, and hi, everyone. Indeed, as explained by my colleague Luis, the patent system provide a very good mirror of what is happening in the industry, and we can monitor over time because it's a very mature system. So also when you have a new technological breakthrough, new entrants on the market, this is something that you can measure. Also when regulators are taking new law, passing new law and so on, we can see sometimes an impact, and this help, of course, policymakers to see if the goal of their policy is met. So here, when you look at the last figures that were just published this morning, the result of 2024, of course, you will see, and this is no surprise, with the pace of digitalization through which our society have been for the last year, that all those technologies related to computer, to digital communication are very high. So this is in the top three, two of the main technical fields. We see also, this is I think a good news, that in the area of green technologies, this is sector number 2 of all of them, there are also important developments. So we spoke about battery, which is a very important field of growth in this domain. But there are many more, and also when you speak about AI is a tool which is used in many technical fields. So the interest of the patent system is that you have no exclusivity. There is no technologies which are not considered patentable. So it gives you a very good frame how you can analyze all those movements. In terms of origin, of course, if you look at the main geographical origin of the companies filing patents at the EPO, you will see that in the top 5, you have 4 non-European countries. So it starts by US companies, representing 25% of the total of application received at the EPO, followed by Germany, then you have Japan, China, South Korea. France is number 6, and then you have a series of European countries represented there. Is it a bad news? I mean, you can question that, and I think also it shows the attractiveness of the technological market of Europe. If there were no interest for the competitor of European company to be present here, you will not see so many applications filed by those companies. So it means that this market means something. You have competitor for which you need to be equipped for. So this is one element. Another element is today we are focusing on the European market. But if you look at the US market, at the Japanese market, the Chinese market, and South Korean market, you will, the 4 main market of technologies outside Europe, you will see that European companies are very present there. And in fact, European companies are filing more patents in the US than US companies are filing patents at the EPO. So this ranking should not disturb or give the feeling that European industry is a bit lagging behind. It is true also that you have some specializations. So when you speak about digital communication and computer technology, and this is also perceivable in the top ranking of companies because you have there Samsung, number 1. It has been Huawei for 6 years, but in 24 Samsung took back his number 1 position, Huawei number 2, and LG is number 3. And again, it shows the dynamism of those countries in those domains. So, as said by my colleague Luis, to follow the evolution of the filings of all those technologies at the EPO, we're able to give a picture. And also, I don't want to overwhelm the audience with figures, but China, which is a new entrant, in 10 years, they have increased their patent application at the EPO by 240%. And South Korea by 100%. If you look at Japanese, American, European companies, it's a rather mature position, so you will see an evolution from 5 to 10% over time.
Is there any figure that personally surprised you that you're not expecting from this year?
Well, if you follow the pace of industry, R&D investment, and this kind of thing, there is no big surprise because, as explained, the patent is a result of the process. This is why also patent applications are not so sensitive to evolution of the market. When you have a market crisis, for example, you can see a drop in some financial indicators, and this is not something that we perceive as EPO. For example, there is perhaps a pause because the patent is absolutely necessary to protect your investment. So if you have invested millions in a project, in a new project, in a new service, you don't decide not to protect your investment because you are perhaps in a difficult financial situation. So there is no surprise in terms of main development. One very positive surprise is, as explained before, the new title that we are managing, unitary patent, because here again, and I participated to the construction of this new title in my past experience. When you are with the policymakers, you expect to reach some goals with a new proposal. When you present a new act, sometimes you have a reaction, of course, of the market, which is not the one you expected. And here, it's over our predictions. We had a forecast and make some different with options and so on, and we had a very positive scenario, and we have above the very positive scenario. So this is a very exceptional. And also when you look at who is using this new system, it was foreseen to lower the cost of accession to the protection for small businesses, SMEs, universities, and so on. Here as well, you need to wait for what are the results, and the results are extremely positive because you have 50% more representation of SMEs at the level of unitary patent compared to the entry point European patents. You have much more European presence there than you have, as we said, because we have in the European patent classical applications, 44% of applications coming from Europe and 57 coming from non-European. In the unitary patent system, this is the reverse. So this is a very positive news. This is very important for the business in Europe, and this is no surprise that Mario Draghi, in his report, when he said, okay, this is now the state of situation, and made some recommendation. One of the main recommendations he made in our field is to expand the system. This is something successful, develop it, and don't reinvent the wheel.
I would like to ask now, Thierry, that you're representing Business Europe here. Maybe you could share with us your observation. What do you believe that it match what the patent is reflecting? Do you think that business are innovating, and do you think that they have the legal framework that allow them to do so?
Well, patents are something important for the industry. It goes, as you were saying, to starting point, you were saying that is innovation and technology. But then patents gives you more opportunity in the defensive and offensive way. Offensive because it's obtaining a protection so that you would prevent others to do the same thing as you do. Defensive because by patenting, you are going to give many information, implicit or explicit. You were mentioning the countries which are newcomers or developing, as the name of companies, their inventors, where they file. It's a lot of information that you would not have otherwise. And also it gives you an opportunity maybe to find possible collaboration. If you are working in a technology and you see patents filed by XYZ, interesting for you, complementing what you know, it's probably the possibility to contact them and see if we can work together. So it's really part of the game, provided you do some work. And we appreciate the work done by the EPO. It's a macro information, but then at the company level, you have to go more deeply. You have to go to the name of the company, examine what it means to really extract the value of what you have. But if you do that, it's important. I didn't mention one important point also, is the name of the inventors. When you have a patent application, you have the name of the inventors. So you have the possibility to know how many inventors are using your competitors or other companies, who they are, and maybe contact them if they are available to maybe work with them. It's also a source of information even inside the company. I give you an anecdote. Many years ago, within Air Liquide, we had an inventor recognition program where we were celebrating the best invention. It was based on the importance of the patent and the business connected to that. And at a point of time, we saw that there was a name coming back many times, and the guy was not an engineer, he was a technician. So my CEO said, well, is there a mistake there? So I've been contacting the R&D people. They say, no, the guy is important. If he is mentioned in the patent, it's because he was key in many inventions. And then the HR department discovered that a guy who was a technician was more important than we were believing thanks to the patent. So it's really a source of information for our company inside or outside. That's why we spend money, because patents are expensive. So it's something that we have to invest in a reasonable way, because we cannot spend our time patenting, but it's rewarding. I think it's a source of information and a source of competitiveness for companies.
Recently, the topic of patent was under the spotlight as the standard essential patent regulation was scrapped from the Commission working program. Adrien, I believe that you are the shadow rapporteur from the text during your last mandate as an MEP. I would be curious if you could share with us what was this regulation about. If you can tell us also what you think about the withdrawal, and if you are one of those who are calling it to be back on the agenda.
Well, first of all, good morning or afternoon. Spanish standards, good morning for sure. Thank you for having me here. Previous mandate, we were expecting in the Legal Affairs Committee, and we were actually pushing the Commission throughout the whole mandate to bring the patents package as soon as possible. It was not only SEPs, we have 2 other files like compulsory licensing that we have the trialogue tomorrow. I am the rapporteur as well, and SPCs. And it's true that when these 3 pieces of legislation that we were demanding arrived, it was late. Not only was late, but they wanted to push them through in a really quick way because we were getting to the end of the mandate. And I think that this is one of those examples that has happened with other pieces of legislation like CS3D or CSRD, that now they are touched upon omnibus, that maybe we will have been, it will have been better to have more time to actually analyze them. It will have been better to have more time to listen to the stakeholders. And it will have been better to give more time to the co-legislators to go through the files. Now, all of a sudden, after 9 months of pushing all these legislations through, now we are amending the whole thing. And we are doing, well, as the Commission. And we are doing these omnibus packages and this withdrawal list that it has caused a lot of waves, because it makes sense. Because something that we were so sure about it 9-10 months ago, and now all of a sudden we are not sure. And it's not like the world has changed, it's just elections results, you know. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to SEPs in particular, I from the very beginning, I didn't think it was a good piece of legislation. I was quite vocal about it. I agree that something had to be done, something had to be actually put into place to try to streamline and make it easier to SMEs to go through this complex process. But at the end, if you are ending up always in litigation, regardless if it goes through EOIPO or whatever, I mean, we are just not solving the key problem. So I must say that the APP group that prefers to have it back. Some of the people in the APP group are one of those that I think that is well withdrawn. But at the same time, I'm one of those that think that something has to be done. But with more time, with a proper impact analysis, and with time both for stakeholders and co-legislators to understand what we are doing. And then last but not least, this is not only when it comes to SEPs or patents package, it's everything that most of the things that we did previous mandate. And the omnibus package is a great example of this. We're going to have 5 of those. And this is going to create political waves that I don't know if people are actually understanding it. But as soon as we start with this first omnibus, when it comes to trying to be more competitive and push technological trends and put Europe back on track when it comes to business competitiveness, now the parliament is a different animal. So previous mandate, whenever you have a piece of legislation coming to parliament, you knew that there was only one majority possible. So we were doing our best to find common understandings and agreements to push those pieces of legislation forward. It's not the case anymore. And if it's not the case anymore, this opens a completely new political landscape. And we're going to see that in the next plenary. As soon as we vote this stop the clock process in the omnibus, then we're going to see what parliament we're going to have for the rest of the mandate. And this is going to also affect the College of Commissioners in what pieces of legislation they're going to push forward. Because if, for instance, we end up in a Venezuelan majority from now onwards in these files, what kind of commission we are going to have after that? So this is something that I'm trying to say quite open. We have to understand that the political situation has shifted radically. And not only when it comes to patents, but anything regarding competitiveness is going to be a political fight that we'll see where it takes us.
When we talk about competitiveness, we also talk a lot about administrative burdens. So I would like to turn to you, Ioannis. I'll be curious to hear your opinion as a representative of the Commission. Why do we need patents? Is there another burden for companies, especially SMEs, or is it an opportunity for researchers, innovators in Europe? We touched upon that a bit, but I'll be curious to hear about it too.
Thank you very much for the question, and thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome.
I think that it comes without saying, especially in the presence of the PO, why patents are important. But for us, it is a way that we can demonstrate that the value that we generate with the investment in research and innovation actually is being maximized, and it's being able to go back to the market or to the society, and also to benefit the European citizens. So for us, patents is a way that we valorize knowledge, and we have introduced this knowledge valorization term back in 2019. And it's just a way to demonstrate that we have a big research and innovation investment in the Union, and that investment needs to generate value. And through the public funding instruments with Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe, we have to maximize this value. Having a patent, basically, not only the protected, but even the non-protected intellectual assets, is a source of value for Europe, and we need to be able to capture that and nurture it to the maturity, and then, if possible, to the market and to the industry. For us, the most important is that we use it as a way to maximize the public investment, that we allow the research and innovation to come closer to the patent and not seen as a burden, and we have to facilitate, as you said, to reduce the burden for the researchers and innovators for acquiring patents, and also at the same time, when the patent is there, not to stay dormant in a drawer, but to be used and leverage as much as possible its usage to the market. The idea is also to help not only the research and innovation ecosystem, but to come closer to the researchers themselves and understand that they need to think about managing their intellectual assets as early as possible. So together with the proposal idea, they need to have an idea about how to manage what they will produce. And not to think about protection as a burden, not to think about protection at the later stage. And as I discussed a bit before with Zil, is that not to have partnerships with other parts of the world, and they're moving quite fast in the protection, and you're just looking at them and say, well, does not concern me. Well, it concerns all of us, and we need to be able to keep very important IP in the Union for the sovereignty, of course, but also for increasing the competitiveness and boost the European industries. We need, the example of the patent index for us is an excellent, as you said, a roadmap to demonstrate what can be scaled up and what can make it to the next step, and identify also gaps. And we need to act as fast as possible in these gaps, from innovation to deployment. And I think that with Horizon Europe, we've done a lot, but we need to see what needs to be done now for the protection in the next MFF and the next framework program, if possible. And I wanted to mention also that it is important to have this focus, this idea on, okay, how to focus my efforts in order to maximize the value that we're generating. Patents is one of these elements, but at the same time, Commission tries to enhance the open innovation approaches. So pre-competitively, to be able to have safe places that we can come together, all the research innovation actors, and work together, develop fast something just before the level of protection, and then at the point of protection to have predefined agreements that can allow everybody to protect, have the patent, and use it commercially, but without impacting the innovation. And this was also something that we always wanted to see, if legislation that is proposed is innovation friendly, or at least innovation neutral. So everything that is being proposed needs to take innovation into account, and we hope that the innovation-related acts that is being in the current mandate of the Commission will take this into the next stage. We need to do more, and we want to do more with these acts.
And I saw in the index that most patents were coming from large company. I think it's 70%, and only 22% coming from SMEs. I think the rest is from university. What is the Commission firstly want to push for those categories to innovate more, and what do you think are the steps?
Well, absolutely, because I think that there's an awareness that needs to be raised, and there's also a mentality that needs to be changed. Because I think that especially the research-driven SMEs do not think about protection, do not think about patents, and it's because most of the rewards for these companies come from their own ideas. It's not working, okay. Well. So it comes from the research. It is the same for the researchers. If the incentives is coming from the top research production and publication, then the patents or the protection or the management of the intellectual assets come at the second place or third place. So that needs to change, and Commission wants to raise this awareness. We created a code of practice for intellectual asset management addressing the research and innovation community. We want also to demonstrate through excellent studies from EPO that an SME that has a patent has more, I don't remember exactly the numbers, but it has a significant percentage of better viability in the market than a company that doesn't have any protection. And if it combined it with a trademark, it even increases even more. It can give more salaries and can grow and expand. So this is something that we need to pass as a message, and also we need to put down also in all possible policy documents that come from research and innovation that think of your intellectual assets as early as possible, and Commission is there to provide you guidance, tools, and even funding to do the next step.
May I?
Of course.
Yes. I mean, I'm a politician. So this is very good, but when you see the data from the own Commission on SMEs, you see that 74% of the SMEs, the first thing they complain and that they invest more is in procurement and compliance. So all the bureaucratic problems they have. And then if you see the numbers for SMEs in Europe, the cost per employee to deliver all the compliance reports that they have to do, and we have not talked yet the non-financial reporting directive, is 10 times higher per employee than a big company. So I agree with everything you said, but first, let's cut the red tape, let's eliminate such bureaucracy for SMEs, because they waste most of their time and money, not in innovation, which is very good that the Commission helps them, but I will think that we will help them much more if we give them some flexibility and they don't have to spend maybe that much money, time, and resources on compliance.
Do you want to react?
Yes, thank you, Roman. Just to add, when we speak about European patent, it's true that at the entry of the system, you have 20% of SMEs. For the unitary patent, it's 30%. So it shows that a piece of legislation, when it is well thought through, you have a good impact study and so on, you can match this goal. And when you reduce bureaucracy, because with one patent you have protection in 18 markets in Europe, France, Germany, Italy, and so on, SMEs are doing it. To CEO SMEs, startups, and so on, you need to come with convincing elements. They have no time to invest. It's complex. patents, most of them still see it as a cost and not an investment. So you must come with concrete elements demonstrating that they are missing an opportunity. This is what we have done with the observatory of the EPO. We look into the ecosystem, try identify the behavior of the different actors. And what you just mentioned is that we saw startups with a portfolio with patents and trademarks at 10 times more chance to attract funding. And this is something which speaks to them. They see the concrete deliverable. So it's not just a cost at a certain moment. It's something that will help them to attract funding. Now, if you look at the side of an investor, which is another study we did in January this year, an investor with more startups with patent in his her portfolio have much more chance to have a successful exit. So here, a patent is a tool. So you have to maximize it. It is true that in the European culture, there are still too many times a reflex to publish. We are extremely good in scientific publications, and we are maybe number one in the world. The problem is that there is often a missed opportunity to protect some of the results and then to commercialize. We have an excellent network of universities. And we saw even in very tech and specialized sectors like technologies fighting cancer, there is a growth of applications, patent applications coming from universities, taking more role. And some of them are excellent in managing their patent portfolio with a technology transfer office. So here you have some best practices that are not so complicated to spread, but again, it's an effort for especially the public authorities to raise the awareness among the economic actors.
Please.
Very quickly, I think we are probably a little bit too much IP-centric, this word of patent office, patent specialist, and we forget how complicated is our system. I remember when I joined Air Liquide, I had a meeting with my CEO, and I was explaining what a European patent is. So you have a European patent, is examined, and then it becomes not a national patent, but a kind of, so it's no more a European patent. Still a European patent, but with national effect. And then you have to pay national fees in each country. Oh, shit, complicated. And that, if you have a litigation, what do you do? Well, you have to go in each country. He said, well, your system is a nonsense. It's a nonsense. So you can imagine, when it's done, it's handled by specialists. Okay, we live with that, we know how to do it. For a small company, which is more concentrated on innovation and business than on patents, patent is not their life, it's really a problem. And we see the consequence with respect to the unitary patent, as was said by Gilles before. Because with unitary patent, at the end of the day, you have one patent valid for 18 countries, one fee. And if you have a litigation, you go in one place. That changed a lot. That's why you move from 20% applicant to 30%. And even more, I find something really interesting. You know, the unitary patent was accepted after enhanced cooperation. Good. Some countries have not to judge that, had good reasons not to join. Fine. But if you see the statistics, today, among the countries which are using the most the unitary patent, you have Poland and Spain, which are not members of the enhanced cooperation, because they have many small companies and they find that unitary patent is useful to them. So really we have something to work on and take advantage of the success when we have some.
I would like to take a step back and maybe look at it more broadly, because we see a small rise of patent requests in Europe. Germany and France are still leader in innovation, but why so many people are saying that Europe has an innovation problem? I don't know who wants to.
Well, I have maybe one reply that I don't have very updated data, but what you just said, when it comes to patents bring innovation, brings better income, brings more resources for companies, but then you see the startup world in Europe. And then you see, for instance, the startups that most of them, they actually innovate, they do research, and usually they cover new sectors. So since 2010 and 2020, almost 500 killer acquisitions of European standards by third country companies. 500. So all that innovation, all those possible future patent inventors, they prefer to sell. And most in Spain, the example you mentioned a good one, but in Spain you talk with these startups or SMEs that invest in innovation. When they get to 49 employers, they don't want to continue, because after 50, the compliance burden and bureaucratic burden is so expensive that they are looking for buyers to their inventions.
There was actually a question I wanted to ask you, that because Spain was very low on the list, I was wondering, is Spain not
But
the inventing?
because even with all the compliance that we put and all this heavy regulation we have from the European Union, and now that's what we are discussing with the Omnibus, the CSRD, that doesn't affect SMEs, but I think that what has been presented is by far not ambitious enough, and I was a shadow rapporteur previous mandate. The thing is that you are not actually sending the correct message to entrepreneurs and possible patent creators. You are just doing the opposite. Maybe you are doing the, yes, we're going to give you Horizon 2020, but then when they get to some level, it's more beneficial for them to sell or to stay small than to continue growing. And what you just mentioned. So we're really, in Spanish we have a say, which is shooting yourself on your own foot. So, and this is, if we don't change this quickly, the trend is going to be like that.
Maybe when we want to react.
Maybe also to precise that this culture of patents among the startups in Europe is very different. For example, in the health sector, biotech sector, the awareness is very high. You have 50% of the startups working in biotech in Europe, they have a European patent in the portfolio because they know it's a kind of do or die. If they don't, they will never attract investment because their investors have no confidence in the business model. So in other sectors, IT, AI, this is at the lowest. And this is where perhaps when you think about a public intervention, we should focus on our energy, because this is where, of course, there is no European GAFAM. But if at the beginning you have no chance to keep those very successful startups, to develop them, this is an issue that will continue with quantum. I mean, if you speak now in the next frontier, in quantum technologies, Europe, you have one of the best startups at the moment, on par with American, Chinese, and so on. There is no doubt about it. Don't miss the train twice. So we should have a focus there. And this is an issue that you can also see. For example, there was a white paper on defense published very recently. And there is a focus on innovation related to securities, to sovereignty. AI, quantum technologies are at the center of that. So we can perhaps also direct our energy on those fields which are key for European sovereignty. That might help also to have, I mean, we must be mindful of the resources that we can involve there. So, and also, Europe has been the last year very good in supporting startups at the beginning. And then this is one of the main conclusions of the drug report. We have a problem of scaling up and at certain stage, a certain level to invest. We are in close contact with our colleagues of the EIC, ESMEA, and the fund, and EIC immediately reacted to the conclusion, creating a new fund and so on. So here we have a very positive development, but the private sector in Europe should be much more active. When you compare US market and European market, the presence of public investors in Europe is higher, different culture too. But there is something that must be done here, and you will not convince investor by just pointing the finger at them to say you should do more. We need to create the condition for them that they have really the interest to invest in those European startups. And by the way, Spain is extremely good in terms of transaction for startups, very, very high in the top countries. It's a pity it is not transformed into Spanish champions in AI.
Of course.
Yes. One thing I wanted to say about the EIC, I think that indeed just the creation of the EIC really helped a lot in finding the innovation, but basically helping the innovators to do the next step.
Has to be you, huh? It's always with you.
It's always with me, right? So it's the commission.
I'm boycotting you.
So the EIC is the one that is really trying to change this gap that we have identified, and I think that there's been a lot of excellent work done there. Now, what we need to identify is that innovation, it exists in the research and innovation ecosystem, but we need to be able to identify it. We need to identify it even after the end of the project and help them grow. And maybe just keeping people inside the research domain and not helping them with their entrepreneurship is not maximizing the innovation. That's why we need these instruments. That's why we need also to identify as fast as possible the domains that can make the difference and focus on that.
I wanted to. Oh, you wanted to.
We should not be totally negative. There are some negative parts, like the time it takes for the European program, these kind of things, but I know the Commission is working on that. At the same time, I've seen recently many newcomers, more particularly for startups. In meeting with startups, we see more and more banks. Before, they were never present. And now banks come and say to the startupper, you should file patent application because it will create securities for you and for us. So it's changing. In the same way you see Mario Draghi speaking about IP. Many years ago, we could not expect Mario Draghi talking about IP. No, it shows really that I believe, I may be too optimistic, but things may be changing.
I need to take a step back once again and going a bit eastern of Europe and looking at South Korea, because they were the country with the most application and also the highest growth, and with some of their company leading the top, Samsung Energy, I'm thinking. Should the EU be concerned about this growth from another country?
I would say we should perhaps take examples, because if you see the history of South Korea, the difficulty went through, and they have progressed in few decades from a country was considered as the poorest in the world, and to be now at the front of technology, and they have no resource of oil or rare material and so on. They have an excellent management of intelligible assets, and especially in the field of IP. They have taken the best of the IP world, exactly for the purpose that was explained by Thierry before. So I think that it's I think a good example that you can follow, not in all aspects, but it's a democracy too. So I think that this is the market of patent with international standards. It exists for more than 100 years. The patent world has been an open market for decades. So, and you have principles allowing foreigners to file a patent in another territory from the end of the 19th century. That has already been the spirit, sometimes pushed by some great inventors and some great writers in terms of copyright. So we are in an open market. It doesn't mean that we are not there with public authority to defend also our sovereignty. But here we need to identify the promising startups and to invest and to support them. One way to do it is to lower bureaucracy, as you just rightly explained.
And another source of concern or motivation maybe is the Chinese tech company Huawei, who has been recently under the spotlight for alleged bribery at the European Parliament, but also accusation of spying for the project. And Huawei has been in 2024 in the index the second company to apply for patents. Should the EU be concerned about this capacity of innovating, and this capacity of this technology that they are holding? Is that a source of concern for the EU, or should they act upon it? I don't know if one of you want to reply to this.
The Commission?
Well, I like the idea of having to take examples from other parts of the world. And also with China, I think there's a very good example there. I got a bit familiar with how they manage IP and how well IP is being embedded into as early as possible in their education system, which is a good example. And then actually demonstrates their capacity to be able to innovate fast and protect and also penetrate. Now, about their practices and their companies with the rest of the world, I don't think that I'm in the position to say. What I have to say is that Horizon, for example, Horizon 2020, Horizon Europe was created as framework programs in a different world. They were created with openness in mind because the fundamental value for research is to be open and be able to collect data, information, and knowledge from different parts of the world. We do create excellent research, and this is also part of the openness and the collaborative spirit we have. It comes now to a time that we need to start questioning a bit how open we are and how we can close, if possible, the collaboration, which is not very easy. We continue having associated countries and countries that want to join Horizon Europe, and as soon as a country joins, enjoys all the benefits of a member state in the program. There are safeguards, and we need, as Commission, to apply these safeguards more and more. And of course, not only with China being one of the countries, but the idea is also to understand that whenever we generate an intellectual asset that could be protected, then we need to act fast because this IP easily can leak somewhere else.
This also, do you want to go? This may also be linked to CEPS regulation as an example, to the standard essential patents. To which countries and companies from which countries that piece of regulation was actually helping? I'm a hardcore liberal. I really don't believe in protectionism. When it comes to patents, and when it comes to CEPS, for instance, maybe we have to be more strategic autonomous and understand that if we open, as we were trying to open with that bit of legislation, then the winners may be companies like Huawei, that actually we'll see where it ends, but it's clear that they were not playing their cards in a transparent and good way.
I don't know Huawei. I'm not in that field of activity, so I will not comment. But I just remember what happened 20 or 30 years ago. South Korean companies and starting Chinese companies were contacted by US companies which were licensing them and collecting significant amount of money for semiconductors, for RCA, for television, and all the consumer goods. And they've been learning what IP and what first invention, technology, and then IP could be. And then they have been learning from that. They've been building a strategy. They've been hiring most of the head of the IP at this time were American. And today, and I don't know, I repeat about Huawei, but many Chinese companies receive money from the government to file patent application. We don't.
Okay, interesting point, and good that you're mentioning the US because that was actually my next question, because the US is the first applicant for patents, and us as European, we use a lot of the technology every day, and there are a ton of cooperation in terms of research, but also between businesses from both sides of the Atlantic. But as you might know, there is a slight growing hostility from the US. How do you think that this could impact innovation in the European Union?
Well, the first result we see from the patent index is that American companies are very present, and I will distinguish between perhaps the political circle and the companies themselves. I think that for them, European market of innovation is a very important market on which they must be present. They continue to do huge investments in Europe in different fields. You can read the news every day. So from this level, I don't think that there is a real risk, but you never know. We will see, because of course the commercial war that might continue will have certain long-term effects, also in localization of the research centers and so on. And so it's perhaps too soon to take any conclusion. But between the patent offices, we have a long tradition of cooperation. We cooperate with the Japanese and American patent offices for more than 30 years now. We extended this cooperation to Chinese and South Korean patent offices 20 years ago. And at this level, we see that there is always a good spirit and good cooperation. And there have been movement in the past too, and we did not perceive let's say, at our level, but might be too technical, the impact of sometimes dispute between government. You have even, which is something I found quite remarkable, an Asian trilateral between China, Japan, and South Korea, who have been cooperating, and despite the tension that everybody knows between those countries from time to time.
I'm going to put a positive note on this one, an optimist. I think that that I agree with you completely, that beyond patents, I think that the Trump administration has probably awakened a giant, which is the European Union, that is maybe encapsulated in too much regulation, but it's actually reacting. And this is actually the Commission, I think, is doing well. And one of those moments when the European Union proves that they can actually push things forward is during crisis. We have seen in the last 5 years that. So in that sense, I think that it's going to be hard, but I think it's definitely awaken up us for sure.
And we've been hearing for some time now this willingness about advancing on strategic autonomy, also the word of like the expression digital sovereignty, but one of the obstacles seems to be investment gap. So I was wondering, how can we bridge this gap? Maybe the Commission representative will be best one to reply.
Sorry.
Thanks. First of all, I would like to mention something about the funding, just to remind everybody that costs for patenting are eligible costs in the framework program since a lot of years. So, and projects actually that want to do that, they can benefit from this funding and submit and get reimbursed. So this is a constant support of the Commission, at least towards the patenting and the possibility for the innovators to cover these costs. What we need to do more on that is just to be able to continue supporting them even when their projects are finished. And if there are pending patent applications or something that needs to be done, that we will be there in order to help them and support them, both with service delivery, which is already at place, but also with additional funding if needed. Now, the investment gap. When it comes to the Commission, I mean, the Commission wants just to give the example and wants to, through the programs and through the means we are having, to demonstrate how things can happen. And I think that the EIC has taken a lot of important initiatives with creating the investors network, and also the possibility to expose, allow me this expression, researchers in front of investors, and allow this industry academia collaboration and academia investors collaboration, bringing more ideas and more results on the surface, and these ones to be shown to investors. At the same time, we need, and I agree with the simplification, we need to allow more funds to be able to participate and invest, and I think there's significant proposals down on the table for allowing that, and also to somehow convince, and I think that is also part of the awakening, to convince that being always risk avert might not be the best strategy, especially now, that we need to take a bit of risks, but Commission has specific limitation. We try to demonstrate how it can happen, but we need everybody, I mean, all stakeholders to be able to act on that.
And now, with a priority made on investing in defense, do you think that there will be a risk for investment in Europe for this program?
I think that, we have to remember that defense was always a part of the research agenda. So there was a lot, and I think that member states themselves were investing in defense. I come from a country that spends a lot of the GDP in defense. So I know that there was a lot of private but basically public investment in defense. So this now, it's not necessarily that I just deprive investment in other research and innovation areas just to focus on defense. There's, of course, a focus there, but this focus is just to make everybody aware that this investment was already there. We can enhance it, but doesn't mean that it takes the focus also of other areas. And I think that lots of research can be used dual. So, I mean, you can have civilian use, you can have the defense use. So there's a lot of research which actually allows the researcher to continue doing specific research and discoveries in their fields, knowing that can be used also for defense. It's something that also needs to be embedded into the mentality of the research innovation ecosystem.
And talking about investment gap, there was also another gap in the market. I was thinking about the labor markets. There is a need for high-skilled worker, but also a need for more women representation, especially in field like tech. And looking at the patent index, we see, for example, that only 25% of inventors were women in 2024, and going as low as 18%, I think, in Austria. Like, what can we do to incentivize people to qualify in those domains, and also women to be interested and qualified?
Well, with respect to women in companies, it's part of the objective of the company to increase the number, and really it starts working, but it takes time. It takes time because I don't know in all the countries of Europe, but in France, the number of women who go to technical career is rather limited. I hope with time it will change with also career opening, but it really takes time.
I have to say that for the Commission there was always this idea of helping women in technology, women in innovation, women in STEM. Actually, this panel is not a very good example.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
It should be the other way around. I think there's a rule that's no woman, no panel, and I think that's a very good rule. But it's true that we have some schemes which are long-lasting for helping women in science, and also not only through, let's say, what the European Innovation Council is doing, but also through the Marie Curie programs, and also helping as early as possible women to embrace the so-called technological domains. And I think I agree it takes time, but already you can see the change in the education level. And of course that needs to be, it takes just a bit of time to see that also as results into companies, into patent applications, into startups. I think we're doing quite well. And I think, of course, we're not reaching the levels we want, but I think that comparing with 10 or 15 years ago, we're much, much better.
Okay. I think I will open now the floor to our audience. I was wondering if anybody had any question for our panelists here today. Maybe just a reminding of a rule that please state your name and organization before taking the mic. And I think we have colleagues in the room with mics. Up. Actually.
Hi, thank you for a really interesting talk. I'm Scott Marcus. I'm a senior fellow at CEPS, the Center for European Policy Studies, also a part-time professor at the European University Institute. I think that the idea that clearly patents are only a piece of the problem, trying to strengthen European innovation goes much deeper. The kind of classic problems that we're focused on in the competitiveness compass, and also in my own work, also in that of many researchers, were the classic ones: lack of skills, lack of finance, a still incomplete single market, and regulatory burden. So those I would see as the big four. Now on the finance side, which is clearly a big piece, there we know Europe is actually producing more technology startups per year than the United States. That's been the case for each of the last 5 years. Our problem is not with creating them, our problem was with growing them. So finance is a big piece of that. If we look at the things that led to the creation of Silicon Valley, brilliant entrepreneurs clearly played their part, but a rather obscure change to American pension law, the ERISA law in 1974, probably played a huge role. By most measures, institutional investments from pensions and insurance represent about 2/3 of venture capital in the United States. This is something I put forward. It was actually picked up in the Draghi report as well. So there, what do you see as prospects for trying to actualize other sources of private funding? A number of you have talked about private funding as being key here, in order to really shake up the European investment system, wake it up. Pensions sit on about 4 trillion in assets, insurance on about 9 trillion. It's actually big enough to make a difference. So I'd welcome your thoughts here, especially from the policymakers' side. Thank you.
Well, I'm not an economist, so. But I mean, of course, joint procurement is the key factor here, but it's something that also President von der Leyen said not long ago when it comes to our saving culture. And we have a huge issue in European Union with our saving culture that is completely opposite to what we have in the East or in the United States. And this is difficult to go out and try to explain to the public opinion. You shouldn't have savings. You should have actually put that money in circulation, invest. And I was discussing this with my assistant today. I think I have in my account like 3,000 euros. I invest everything I do. I try to put my money. And actually, saving money is bad for our welfare system and it's bad for our union. It's the most selfish thing you could do. You have to actually invest and put that money around. But beyond that, this is the only example I can give you. I mean, I'm a lawyer, so when it comes to economics.
Well, the idea of having more players that could invest, especially in innovation, I think it's something that came out strongly with the new Commission political priorities, and I think that there are concrete ideas how to put it down. And what we see is that by creating a trusted network of investors, for example, can allow at least the identified innovators to go and have better conditions when it comes and opening a bit this market. I'm not an expert on this as well, but I know that that's certainly a way forward. But it requires also changing in the member states. So we cannot only see what Commission is putting down, and you said it very well before. If we haste something, probably we might not do it well, but it needs an agreement at member state level that they need also to do the respective elements, because I mean, Horizon is just a small percentage, for example. I mean, it cannot represent the totality. And for me, this scale-up thing is important, and that's why I think that this startup and scale-up strategy that now is being put down and will be. I hope it will be published before the summer. I think it has very concrete ideas on how we can scale up. And one element for the scaling up is all this licensing framework or the possibility of using this intellectual assets to create wealth, to create value. And I hope, I cannot say much more, probably you will see in the public consultation, you will have the possibility to express your views. I think that this scale up will also lead also to more drastic measures for the innovation that will come in the next year.
Anybody else has a question?
Hi, thanks for the panel. My name is Inba Price from MLEX. I was curious to hear from the panelists. There have been reports over the past years about Chinese theft of EU intellectual property. I was wondering if that's still a concern or if there's any data from the EPO that shows a change in these trends. Thanks.
Well, the EPO is not in charge of anti-counterfeiting actions campaign, but of course this is something that we are following. It's part of the system. There might have been a shift, as you explained, Thierry, in the way Chinese have addressed IP. It is true that if you refer to a period like 20, 30 years ago, when you had the headlines with China in relation with IP, it was often not for good reasons. But how they were going more and more global, it is clear, and that was a plan from the Chinese authority, that they put the patent system, IP in general, as a tool that must be used by their companies, universities, and so on. And you have many indicators at international level, at WIPO, so the IP agency of the UN, where you see the progression of China using IP. One of the best illustration of this shift for me is when two Chinese companies fought each other, Huawei, ZTE, in Germany in front of a German jurisdiction. So you saw the evolution in only 20 years. It doesn't mean that there is no problem, but I mean, you have owners of patent there, and counterfeiting can come from everywhere. It comes from most of your competitor in Europe sometimes. So it's not only China. You need to be careful about.
I think there are two parts. The fair part is that intellectual property is in China a strategic issue at the state level. And this is good. This is good. I would dream that we have the same thing maybe in Europe or in each of the country. Now, how is it implemented? Then there are things that when you are in China, which is our case, you start knowing, but it's not official, it's difficult to have evidence, and you cannot have anti-competitive action if you don't have evidences. So that's where the difficult part is.
I think I will have to end the discussion here if no one has anything to add. But thank you very much for participating into this event. Thank you very much to our audience for being with us today, also online. And I see you hopefully next time for a Euronews event.